Iazumi is a Japanese word that refers to the insertion of ink under the skin to leave a permanent, usually decorative mark. A form of tattooing. The word can be written in several ways, each with slightly different connotations. The most common way of writing Iazumi is with the Chinese characters a gamma oya or an epsilon, literally meaning to insert ink. The characters CE suggest decorating the body. A permale QD is more esoteric, being written with the characters for stay, or remain, and blue, or green, and probably refers to the appearance of the main shading ink under the skin. EN is rarely used, and the characters AE combine the meanings pierce, stab, or prick, and blue, or green, referring to the traditional Japanese method of tattooing by hand. History of Japanese tattoos. Tattooing for spiritual and decorative purposes in Japan is thought to extend back to at least the January Mon or Paleolithic period. Some scholars have suggested that the distinctive cord-marked patterns observed on the faces and bodies of figures dated to that period represent tattoos, but this claim is by no means unanimous. There are similarities, however, between such markings and the tattoo traditions observed in other contemporaneous cultures. In the following Edo period, tattoo designs were observed and remarked upon by Chinese visitors. Such designs were thought to have spiritual significance as well as functioning as a status symbol. Starting in the Kofun period, tattoos began to assume negative connotations. Instead of being used for ritual or status purposes, tattooed marks began to be placed on criminals as a punishment. Ainu tattoos. The Ainu people, an indigenous people of Japan, are known to have used tattoos for decorative and social purposes. There is no known relation to the development of Iazumi. The process of Iazumi was very painful for the tattooist as well as the victim, as the tattooist had to endure much screaming and pain. Japanese tattoos in the Edo period. Until the Edo period, the role of tattoos in Japanese society fluctuated. Tattooed marks were still used as punishment, but minor fads for decorative tattoos, some featuring designs that would be completed only when lovers' hands were joined, also came and went. It was in the Edo period, however, that Japanese decorative tattooing began to develop into the advanced art form it is known as today. The impetus for the development of the art were the development of the art of woodblock printing and the release of the popular Chinese novel Suikoden, a tale of rebel courage and manly bravery illustrated with lavish woodblock prints showing men in heroic scenes, their bodies decorated with dragons and other mythical beasts, flowers, ferocious tigers and religious images. The novel was an immediate success, and demand for the type of tattoos seen in its illustrations was simultaneous. Woodblock artists began tattooing. They used many of the same tools for imprinting designs in human flesh as they did to create their woodblock prints, including chisels, gouges and, most importantly, unique ink known as Nara ink, or Nara black, the ink that famously turns blue-green under the skin. There is academic debate over who wore these elaborate tattoos. Some scholars say that it was the lower classes who wore euro, and flaunted such tattoos. Others claim that wealthy merchants, barred by law from flaunting their wealth, wore expensive Iazumi under their clothes. It is known for certain that Iazumi became associated with firemen, dashing figures of bravery and roguish sex appeal, who wore them as a form of spiritual protection. Tattoos in modern Japan. At the beginning of the Meiji period, the Japanese government, wanting to protect its image and make a good impression on the West and to avoid ridicule, outlawed tattoos, and Iazumi took on connotations of criminality. Nevertheless, fascinated foreigners went to Japan seeking the skills of tattoo artists, and traditional tattooing continued underground. Tattooing was legalized by the occupation forces in 1948, but has retained its image of criminality. For many years, traditional Japanese tattoos were associated with the Yakuza, Japan's notorious mafia, and many businesses in Japan still ban customers with tattoos. Although tattoos have gained popularity amongst the youth of Japan due to Western influence, there is still a stigma on them amongst the general consensus. Unlike the US, even finding a tattoo shop in Japan may prove difficult, with tattoo shops primarily placed in areas that are very tourist or US military friendly. According to Kunaro Shimada, the president of the Japan Tattoo Institute, OE Today, Thanks to years of government suppression, there are perhaps 300 tattoo artists in Japan. There are even current political repercussions for tattoos in Japan. In 2012, the mayor of Osaka started a campaign to rid companies of their employees with tattoos. According to an article written about Hashimoto Oi, he is on a mission to force workers in his government to admit to any tattoos in obvious places. If they have them, they should remove them or find work elsewhere. Hashimoto unregistered trademark's beliefs were fairly well received by the public as well, with many large companies who were already tattoo-phobic siding with him. Modern tattoos in Japan are done similarly to Western ones. Unlike traditional izumi, where the majority of the tattoo decision-making is left up to the artist, customers bring in a design of their choice or can decide on what they would like at the shop. Many Japanese artists are well versed in multiple styles besides traditional Japanese tattoos, giving customers the ability to select from a wide assortment of options, anywhere from tribal to New Age styles. Modern tattoos are done via an electric machine, in which the ink can be inserted into the machine or the needle tip can be dipped into ink for application. Japanese artists are lauded for their quality of work, despite being a bit pricey, and are highly sought after. Despite widespread discrimination towards people with tattoos, with rules that prohibit tattooed people into hot springs, golf courses and gyms, it is still one of the best places in the world to get the best quality ink jobs. Despite the majority of modern tattooing being done by needle gun, izumi is still done traditionally. The ancient tattoo style is still done by specialist tattooists, who might be difficult to find. Unlike Western-style tattoo artists, the majority of traditional izumi artists are unregistered trademark T located in the Tokyo area. It is painful, time-consuming and expensive. A typical traditional bodysuit can take 1 to 5 years of weekly visits to complete and cost in excess of $30,000. The process is also much more formal than Western tattooing. Whereas Western tattoo artists tend to do exactly what you request, traditional izumi artists tend to go back and forth with the customer and discuss what they would like the tattoo to look like as well as reserve the right to refuse service. Rather than electric guns, wooden handles and metal needles attached via silk thread are utilized. Process. The prospective tattooer must first find a traditional tattoo artist. This in itself can be a daunting task because such artists are often surprisingly secretive, and introductions are frequently made by word of mouth only. A traditional tattoo artist trains for many years under a master. He will sometimes live in the master's house. He may spend years cleaning the studio, observing, practicing on his own flesh, making the needles and other tools required, mixing inks, and painstakingly copying designs from the master's book before he is allowed to tattoo clients. He must master all the intricate skills unique styles of shading, the techniques used for tattooing by hand required to create the tattoos his clients will request. He will usually be given a tattoo name by his master, most often incorporating the word hori, and a syllable derived from the master's own name or some other significant word. In some cases, the apprentice will take the master's name, and will become the second or third. After an initial consultation during which the client will discuss with the tattooist the designs he is interested in, and work begins with the tattooing of the outline. This will usually be done in one sitting, often freehand, which may require several hours to complete. When the outline is complete, the shading and coloring is done in weekly visits, whenever the client has money to spare. When the tattoo is finished, the artist will sign his name in a space reserved for that purpose, most often somewhere on the back. Whereas of traditional tattoos can often afford little else. They frequently keep their art secret, as tattoos are still seen as a sign of criminality in Japan, particularly by older people and in the workplace. Ironically, many yakuza and other criminals themselves avoid tattoos for this very reason. Glossary of Japanese tattoo terms. Izumi, a permale qd, en or ae tattoo, horomono, tattoo. This is another word for traditional Japanese tattoos. Horishi, a tattoo artist. Bokyuke, bokeh, punishment by tattooing. Teepuri, describes the technique of tattooing by hand. Hainbury, a hand tattooing technique employing a feathering motion. Tsukibori, a hand tattooing technique employing a thrusting motion. Kakushibori, tattooing near the armpits, the inside of the thighs and other hidden body areas. Also refers to the tattooing of hidden words, for example among the petals of flowers. Kebori, the tattooing of fine lines or of hair on tattooed figures. Tsujibori, outlining, the outline of a tattoo. Shaki, the sound needles make when they puncture the skin. Iabokuro, from Iya or Iraru, which means to insert, and Bokuro or Hokuro, a beauty spot, Iobori, yo tattooing. The Japanese English slang term for tattooing done with the machine. Sumi, the ink used to tattoo, traditionally mixed by the apprentice. Hikao, chest panel tattoo. Negasode, arm tattoo, to the wrist. Shichibu, three-quarter sleeve tattoo, to the mid-forearm. Gobu, one-half sleeve tattoo, to above the elbow. Common motifs. Some common images in traditional Japanese tattoos include mythological beasts and monsters, dragons, kirin, baku, fu dogs, ha-angstrom animals, birds, koi, tigers, snakes, flowers, peonies, cherry blossoms, lotuses, chrysanthemums, other plants, bamboo, maple leaves, characters from traditional folklore and literature, such as the Suikoden, images of the floating world inspired by ukiyo-e prince, geisha, samurai, Buddhas and Buddhist deities such as Fudamaya Angstrom and Kannon, Shinto kami such as Tengu, backgrounds, clouds, waves, wind bars. See also, criminal punishment in Edo period Japan, criminal tattoos, Tayama no Kin-san, Yakuza, references. Further reading, Andrews, Joshua. The Art of Tattooing. HowToTattoo.net, 2008. Fellman, Sandy. The Japanese Tattoo. New York, At the Ville Press, 1986. ISBN 0-89659-798-9, ISBN 0-89659-661-3. Ritchie, Donald, and Ian Berrimer. The Japanese Tattoo. New York, Wetherill, 1980. ISBN 0-8348-0149-3. External links. Japanese Tattoo Gallery, a website about traditional Japanese tattoos and Izumi art. Msayani Eurobody Modification Design, Izumi Euro Izumi by Hideyoshi 3, Tattoo Navia Euro Izumi from Japan, The Way of the Ink documentary about Izumi, by Pamela Vallant and Pascal Bagot.